My name is Amari Troutt. Welcome to the Spokane or the Teens Talk Spokane, hosted by the Chase Youth Commission. The commission consists of 10 high school students who work with the local government officials on behalf of the Spokane County youth. Um, Teen Talk Spokane is a series of interviews that aim to create a better understanding of our community and people who work to support it. Our questions have been chosen through relevancy to the youth of Spokane and current matters we face. Today, we are happy to introduce Ms. Jill Royston, an intervention specialist at North Central High School. Ms. Royston is here to discuss her role and how her job impacts youth. So, Ms. Royston, thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Can you please shed some light on what the intervention specialist's responsibilities are?
You bet. Absolutely. First, thank you all for having me and for being even willing to hear about my job and what I do. I'm grateful for that. As an intervention specialist at North Central, my role when we typically are in school will be to help students that are struggling academically, struggling with health issues, struggling with social and emotional issues. And I'll be in a classroom where they can come and do work in that classroom with the goal of getting them back into class as soon as possible, but also give them resources, connect them with community resources, help them understand and talk through kind of what's going on in their world that might hinder their academic success or social and emotional success. In an academic world where we are doing everything online, I actually am doing a ton of home visits. So getting out into the community, getting food to families, academic supports if computer issues are happening. Computer cords are kind of an issue. I know many of you probably know that, right? They have a tendency to go bad. So getting out and connecting with our students that way has been a gift. And then also hosting a lot of Teams meetings, just checking in on our students who may not be participating as often in class, who might be struggling academically, and connecting them with resources. In my role currently, I'm also helping out with a student learning center. So after school, NC hosts students to be able to come in and onto campus for 2 hours from 3:30 to 5:30. So I'm helping to coordinate that effort, sending emails, welcoming students in, get to check them in. So I'm taking a lot of temperatures, asking a lot of COVID questions, but I love it. My heart and soul is just in the connection with students, letting them know that we are here listening and understanding what's getting in the way of them having that success, and then trying to break down barriers so that they can get to what they need and do the amazing work that they're here to do. So that's my role in a nutshell.
That is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
What called you to take this position and how did you prepare for it?
you bet. So I have, in a previous, well, life or previous work, I worked at a university here in town, and I loved working with college students, and I loved the honest, open dialogue that we would have, and just being welcomed into their world. And then I realized by the time they get to college, they have some pretty entrenched behaviors, and how can I get my hands on them a little sooner? So a really good, amazing colleague and friend of mine, Sean Washington, who works at Whitworth University, reached out to me one day and he said, "Hey, Jill, there's a job at NC that looks just like something for you." My background is in psychology. My undergrad work I did at WSU, and then I did my master's work at Gonzaga University in school counseling. So my background is in that neck of the woods, but I have an array of trainings in regards to drugs and alcohol, preventing and ending sexual violence, preventing and reaching out to students regarding all sorts of social and emotional needs. Also, suicide prevention is another passion area of mine. So all of that combined, education, training, passion, and work led me to come to North Central, where the last 6 years I've worked as a student assistant professional. So I worked directly with students that were struggling with drug or alcohol issues or had family members that struggled, or the trauma that can come from a life of use and abuse. And then just this year, I got to transfer into the new intervention specialist role here at NC. And I'm grateful to be a part of a team that recognizes first and foremost that prevention is necessary. It's hard to measure prevention, so a lot of folks don't want to put money towards it, but that there's great work to be done in that area, which then helps young people be able to make choices for themselves, for their families, for their future, um, Yeah, and to have an open and honest dialogue with an adult in the building is pretty huge. And a lot of students have come my way just because they're like, I need someone to just process life with. So I'm grateful for that. I don't serve as a counselor in the school setting, so I'm not a school counselor, even though that's my background. We do have amazing school counselors here, and we have mental health therapists that are also on our campus. So I don't serve in that capacity either, but kind of figure myself to be one who gets kids resource ready. What does that mean? If they need to see a counselor or a mental health therapist, we talk through that. We talk what that might look like. If they need to go to treatment, we talk what that might look like. We think about ways that they can get services outside in the community, and then I help get them connected to that. And then academically, that's my biggest charge, is just helping them find that success here at NC, and then dream again. Dream about their future, dream about what it might look like living on their own, being away from an environment that could be troublesome or worrisome. So, yeah.
Okay. I understand that you were instrumental in creating the One Tribe movement at North Central. Can you explain why that came about and what it means to the North Central students?
You bet, absolutely. So we experienced tremendous loss. It was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now, where in a matter of 13 months, we lost 4 students to death by suicide. And even in a community where we pride ourselves on doing great outreach and prevention and having students know that there's resources available, we still experienced that loss. And it rocked us to the core. And it rocked our students to the core. So I have to say the movement was actually created by students who came forward saying, what can we do? Something has to give. I think the biggest thing that we heard from them, and listening to what they had to say, was we are connected as students via our phone, via online, etc. But we're not connected really when we're in the hallways, when we're sitting at lunch. Like, you can be in a huge school with all these quote unquote friends and still feel alone. So the students actually challenged us to dig deep into our background, our knowledge, and the skill set that we can bring to the table. And then we worked with the students to say, what do you guys want to see? What would help you feel more welcome here? What would help you feel connected at NC? And what could we do that's genuine and be authentic? Like, we're not going to try and tell students how to feel and how to be. What we wanted to know is, how do we do this together and make our community stronger? So it was an awesome opportunity. Essentially, what was born of that was an opportunity to have students feel connected, to build compassion for young people that are experiencing extreme mental health related issues. And how do we have compassion around that and let them know that we're there for them? And then, yeah, just that sense of community. How do you build community in a high school with so many diverse, different folks from all different walks of life, all different cultures, all different races, and help them feel like NC is their space, their home as well? So that movement actually turned into an opportunity where we got one day where there's no quote unquote school academics, but it's actually all social and emotional school. So we got a full day where the last few years, we've been able to bring in a guest speaker. Ideally, it's been someone that the students have encouraged and wanted to hear from, that they ideally have a connection to NC in some way, shape, or form. And they themselves experienced either the trauma, like a traumatic background, they felt alone at some point in time. They maybe experienced drug or alcohol related issues, like something that could just relate to the student body. And then we did and do breakout sessions where students can connect with one another, get a chance to meet people maybe you haven't met before. We get to have one whole lunch together. We take over the entire school. There are kids everywhere, which I love, and just connect with each other that way. Um, and it's been, we didn't get to do it last spring, which was a huge bummer. And we're trying to figure out this year how to do it in a virtual setting. How do you build community virtually and help people feel connected? So it's been an awesome year of challenge and growth and rethinking, but my personal passion is I would love to take suicide off the table as an option for everyone to feel like they matter, that they belong, they have a purpose. I may not know what their purpose is, they may not know what their purpose is, but to believe again that they do have purpose and value and meaning, And then again, as mentioned earlier, to get them dreaming that, keep moving forward. There's something there for you. So yeah, that's one tribe. And it's getting a new name because North Central is going to be getting a new um, symbol, which
Mhm.
we want to be more holistic and thoughtful as to how we represent North Central and our community. So looking forward to when we choose our new symbol, renaming that day so it becomes a focus for everyone, that everyone feels connected and a part of it.
Okay. I know that that specific movement is designed for North Central, but has there been any talks about adopting something of that nature into other schools?
Absolutely. And we would love it. Please know that when we started this whole thing, we put everything into a document. I think what it really started, honestly, came from the fact that when we lost our students, there was no sort of policy or protocol really in place. Like, how do you deal with this? How do you even manage the day when you experience a student loss? So that was something that actually all the schools have already grabbed a hold of and said, we want to adopt a better way of doing this, a better way of handling crisis for our students, handling crisis for the adults in the building, right? Like, how is from one human being to another human being, do we do this work better? And then One Tribe Day here, and we are kind of throwing around the concept of igniting hope. How do you ignite hope again in young people who at some point in their lives may have experienced hopelessness, right? Or gosh, the way the world is currently, I don't doubt most people have experienced hopelessness in some way, shape, or form as of recent. So I know that, like, for example, at Lewis and Clark, they have Tiger Wellness, right? So I think there's a group of students, and it really, in my opinion and belief, and with my amazing colleague, Wendy Bromley, we really believed it needed to come from the students. It needed to be born from their desire of something has to be different. And now adults help us figure this out, right? So, and I love that challenge. I love when it comes that way. My whole goal is to say yes, and how do we make this happen? And if it requires money, we're going to go get money. If it requires, a day off school, Wendy was going to lobby all our teachers and say, hey, this is important enough that we want to usurp some of the academic time and make that happen. So our hope is that, yep, we've got this entire cachet of information that I will gladly turn over to any and all schools. It just takes, I think, some committed students, some committed adults, and it's, yeah.
That is wonderful. What has been your favorite thing about working in the school district?
Oh, great question. There's so many. I will say I am a true North Central. I like love this place. And part of it is the people, right? So to start just in my personal community here at North Central, I work with amazing individuals who have a passion for students, who have a passion for education and a passion for learning. And when that all comes together, I love my principal, Steve Fisk, always says, go to work, do it. Like, I'll drop an idea and he'll say, make it happen. I love that. So the trust I feel, the respect I feel, and actually the charge of like, hey, if you think that's going to help our students, make it happen, which I'm grateful for. And I think at district, I feel that same passion and commitment downtown, but also I love the surrounding community I have at colleagues in other schools. So I have teacher friends at Ferris. I have counselor friends at Lewis and Clark. I know people at Prep and have gotten to do, a couple different activities with them. I have amazing colleagues that work in the East Valley district and even in some smaller districts. So I don't know. I love the community. I love also that I feel like Spokane is a community that embraces education and realizes if we want culture to change in our community and we want things to be better in our community, it starts in our schools. And then you put good people there that can connect with the community. That's another thing. I feel like I'm a bit of a social cat. I love meeting people and I love getting to know what they do, who they are, what they're passionate about, and then making those connections to better our community.
Okay. What have been some of the challenges?
Challenges. There's been quite a few. I think the biggest one, honestly, is time, right? How many of us wish we could have more time to do the work that we want to do? Or that's always one, especially when I'm working with the students. I'm like, we could go for days. So time has always been one that struggled with a little bit. And then prioritizing. There's so many needs. Um, Not everybody experiences things the same way. We learned that with One Tribe. So being able to refine and figure out how to do that better so that everybody feels connected, and prioritizing the needs of our students and the community. And so I think prioritizing is a gift and a skill that we have to cultivate our entire lives. Still working on it. Um, right. And then, of course, the needs and culture. I think just those are some of the like existential challenges that just present each and every day that I wish we could wrap our hands around a little better. So, yeah.
Um, What is the best piece of advice you have for students who are not able to physically attend school?
Oh my gosh. I actually thought about this question too, because it's advice I would give myself. And I have needed to do that time and again. I think the biggest thing that I would advocate for is keep a schedule, right? So if you think of your school day as a school day, I got to get up. What time do you get up? If you get ready for school, definitely still plan that out, even though you might not shower, you might not, do breakfast. You might be doing breakfast during your first class. But I think a schedule is key for our brains and for just kind of keeping our bodies in the same habits, right? Because it's easy when I think virtual schools or asynchronous learning that you don't necessarily have to be in class at that time. It can be really easy to let things sort of pile up, right? And or binge watch something, which I'm notorious for too. And also, along with that too, I think given my background in mental health, I think our physical health is so important. So drinking water, excellent for your brain, right? Getting some exercise, getting out, unplugging for at least an hour a day, I think is critical, especially because we're asking, especially our young people, to be online all the dang time, where you guys already were living online all the dang time. So being able to disconnect. I would also challenge students to connect with their friends if you can, of course, in safe distance, social distancing, but get out to a park, get out, go for walks together. That's something that I do with my friends. And we're still like 6 feet apart, so it looks kind of wonky as we're sort of yelling at each other, but it's good for the soul, good for the heart. I think those are some of the key things that I would, and it's good for your mental health,
Yes, yes.
right?
Most
And
important.
isolation, most important for sure.
All right. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
It's interesting when I saw that question. There is something, and it's my dad was a dentist here in town, and he also coached baseball. So I learned a lot from the years watching him coach baseball. One of the biggest things that he always kind of taught us is, you're never going to know what pitch is coming at you. So sorry to use a baseball analogy, but as I love baseball, and as we head towards potential baseball season, I hope they get to play. You never know when you're going to get thrown a curveball, right? The only thing you can do is practice and keep hitting. And eventually you'll be able to hit the curve. But by the way, the curve is going to keep coming, and it's going to come in many different forms during our lives. But if you keep practicing and you keep, hitting, eventually you're going to hit one of those curveballs out of the park. So that's, for me, just the analogy of baseball, of being able to figure out and hit the curve is huge. Because I think we've all been thrown a huge curveball. We're still trying to navigate how to get through it, and we're not completely through it. But it gave me a perspective. My dad was also really a positive person, and he lived in a positive way. So gratitude was a huge thing, practicing that, and being reminded that we're not alone and that we have people in our lives who care for us. So, but I'm grateful for you all and the work that you do, and your commitment to your fellow peers is huge.
Yes, the feeling is definitely mutual. On behalf of our group, we would just like to say thank you for participating and speaking with us today. If you have any information that you would like to share, I hope you'll reach out to us, and you can either email Susan or myself. And then again, this is the Teens Talk Spokane with Jill Royston, hosted by the Chase Youth Commission, working to provide teens with information about our community. Have a good week, Spokane.